If you ask someone what could be worse than Jeepers Creepers 3, the only answer could be the next installment, Jeepers Creepers Reborn. I'm telling you, as a person who's seen these films, this franchise is cursed. I've avoided discussing this film for a long time, but I talk about horror films, this is what we do. So if you ask me, is this film really as bad as people say it is? This time, I think it actually might be. I believe I have fully developed tinnitus in my ears from the random high audio frequencies this film had. I'll tell you though, I did like the twist between Ronald and Marie, the older couple, witnessing what Trish and Dari witnessed and going back to look just like Trish and Dari did. And even furthermore, how they recounted their story in a YouTube documentary. I'm not totally off-put by progressive use of social media in horror films, and not because I make horror videos on YouTube. I'm not being biased, I just think it actually kind of worked. I like to be reminded that film isn't a reflection of just the director or the writer or the actors or the cinematographers. It's of course the collaborative effort, so you couldn't hold one person to blame for anything. This film felt highly theatrical, with characters who of course are horror nerds, and it's funny, it's hard not to scoff at, even though the main actor refers to him as the creeper, so he's kind of just like me and you. But I respect that side of the character's personality, I mean, because we have to, because if we're watching videos on Jeepers Creepers, that's kind of us. But the thing about this film is they acknowledge the movies. They see the creeper as this myth, as this lore, they know what it is, and the first film didn't really have that, second film didn't really have that. The opening scene where it introduced the creeper coming out of the barn, it felt like the crew had no idea what they were doing. Like, did they shoot it in the daytime only to aid the lighting department's budget? The film feels fan-made, it doesn't take itself half serious. It actually felt like a waste of an hour and 30 minutes when I watched it, and I do feel mean saying it, but there are some redeeming qualities. It's hard to focus on the things that aren't wrong, and with the 2.5 stars out of 10, I will attempt not to add torch to the flame. The concept of this town actually helping the creeper feed isn't terrible in theory. I think it's solely been done wrong, but I can see at one point the vision may have been promising. The acting couldn't carry the fact that the plot seems to be highly convoluted, and I'm not going to complain that Jonathan Breck didn't reprise his role as the villain because we all saw how bad the third one was. The sets for the festival were actually almost kind of satisfactory. I mean, fog, countryside, deserted spaces mixed with fire, lights, Halloween costumes, rednecks, cursing, you can't really mess that up. I don't feel sold that the cinematographer had an eye for it at all, and if he did, perhaps the director just didn't let him take the reins for the vision because the lighting honestly sucked throughout the film. I mean, if you look at Haunt, that's a Scarefest film, and it was basically perfect. And then look at how they made the new Leatherface film in this new generation. Felt at times kind of goofy, but also kind of really good. And I mean no disrespect to the director of this movie, but you definitely weren't the one for the job. The film leans heavily into sexual tones, and quite frankly, I find it gross. The first one and second one didn't do it. I don't know why he did with this one. This franchise hit a hard downward spiral after the second film came out, and I really wanted to be satisfied with this movie, but I couldn't. I watched it when it first came out, and I'm only rewatching it again today to make this video. And I'll say that one thing, fair play, when I was a kid, I would have never imagined these two films that I watched would have eventually went on to have a creeper-themed escape room. My expectations have been shattered, but again, you have rid me of the festival scenes and you left me in a state of boredom. And I'm also highly against relationship issues being any place for a horror film. No, your boyfriend isn't cheating on you because he's talking to another girl. I feel like a teenager wrote this film. When you introduce this, is it real? Is it reality? Are they dead? Is he a real killer? Or are they acting? It can be really good. Again, like I said, Hunt. But it's just not with this movie. And I've just decided there aren't many positives to this film. The only positive about this film is that perhaps we're going to be another 22 years without another one. Like, it's just another movie about being locked in a house, fending for survival, but it lacks any substance that would really immerse you into the story to find out how it ends. And it's nuts how much more palpable the first two were in comparison to the last two. Like, none of the characters for this movie pushed narrative in ways that the characters were expected to. No one really felt like their place was impactful or their presence was impactful in any way. For a while, I thought, a few years ago, there might have been hope for this monster movie to come back and have some sort of a redemption, but honestly, it can't. I mean, the first two, you could feel there was a solid space for the mythology to be discovered for the creeper, but this film stands as everything it shouldn't have been. The pace was beyond rocky, everything felt mixed, the scenes didn't even seem to be in proper sequence. It honestly felt like the director forgot to bring the shot list on site for production. And I think the cast did the greatest shot at carrying what the production clearly lacked. This film was a prime opportunity for cast who had previously bred their careers with British soaps, and unfortunately this film didn't give them the break they obviously earned with the career up until now. The film didn't make history canon, and the creeper's wear and tear was obvious throughout the scenes which showed it, and perhaps that's actually probably the nicest touches this film got. But there's no way you can change from the original actor to a new one and not see it as anything more than a stuck out sore thumb. But they tried, and I can't argue with that. I always do applaud when people try new things. Replacing wings which were previously done as practical effects with CGI was arguably the reason that this film has no notable monster scenes, and this movie won't get its flowers. I said it in a previous film before, special effects departments in the first two films really brought the creeper to life, but this doesn't do it. It doesn't at all. And it feels highly two-dimensional.